Hello, welcome back to Design Elements and Principles. Today is proportion and the poster design. But before we get started, there's a item in here that I want to look over with you very quickly. And it's called the GRDS. GRDS stands for graphic design, if you didn't know. Course checklist. And this is to help you quickly know what you need to take and when. And not necessarily when, but the order in which you should take your classes. You can take one at a time, two at a time, three at a time, four at a time, whatever you feel fits your schedule, which will allow you to do the best work possible. There are no rules, laws, or anything that says you need to take 6 courses or 5 courses. You take what's comfortable to you and do that. That's the way to pass classes, is do what you can. If you take too many, it's too many. But here is just kind of like the outline. Now we put the general studies down here. You can take these whenever you want. My recommendation for a lot of students is like, dude, knock some of those out in the summer. Like if you're not, we don't offer very many of the graphic design courses in the summer, simply due to, it may be unusual to hear this, there isn't a lot of draw for them. There isn't a lot of students who are begging to take summer courses in the graphic design area. We try, and then they like 3 students sign up, and then we end up canceling the classes. We do run a couple of the first semester courses, and that's usually to give incoming students a leg up. Or if you haven't taken Photoshop, we're running GRDS 103 and GRDS 107 this summer. If you haven't taken those, I mean, we're in 103, but if you're like, for some reason, I need to take it again, take it again in the summer. It's basically, it's very close to the same course, different instructor. I won't be teaching this summer. We have to split the load up, it's called. But for general studies, take those when you can. Take those, if it's easier to take those in summer, take those during the winterim. They're just like 8-week sessions. It's the same courses, but sometimes it's nicer to kind of like concentrate on those separately than trying to do like, I have a psych paper, an English paper due, and I have to do like some graphic design work. Like, and hopefully the graphic design work always wins out. And then, so you're like, just split the difference. But this is the order. And for the most part, I want to say like 90% of the stuff with prereq means you have to take a course before you take another course. So before you take research and concepting, you have to have passed 103. We do this like all of these you can step in and start taking. All of these you should have taken something already, because you're going to be developing work. And if you were like just jump into packaging design and not have taken vector graphics, you won't know what the heck is going on, because it's all, Illustrator based. Kind of like design elements and principles. We dabble in it. I'm not teaching you how to use the programs per se, but you get a little dabble in it. Photoshop is all about learning Photoshop. Typography is using Illustrator, probably mostly Illustrator, to learn typography. So you get a little legs up there, and then you're going to take vector graphics, which is Illustrator, which blends into these two, which you're going to use it a lot. And then you learn InDesign, which is for advertising. And then mostly there on out, you'll use it a lot. So take a look at this. This will help you. So if you're like, I don't know what to take next. And sometimes that MATC list is like really kind of like they list it in number order. It doesn't seem like it's in the right orders. This is it. This is broken out for you. So you can download that and just be like, I've taken it. I haven't, sign up for those. And that's how you kind of go through this list. So if you have questions, always just reach out to me. You have course advisors, but you can ask me questions as well and be like, hey, I took this and this. Should I take this or that? Or they recommended I do this. And you can always double check. You can always get, quote unquote, a second opinion. So take a look at that. That's what that's in there for you. And it's in for the last 2 weeks here. And we are down to the last 2 weeks. Isn't that exciting? Last 4 classes, last 2 weeks. We'll be working up into the very end. And then that last Thursday class is kind of like finish up the work and get it done. You have a shorter amount of time to get it done, just prepping everybody that I think the furthest I can go is everything closes down on the Sunday after the last class. So you will have homework to do and finish after that Thursday in the last class. So you'll have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and everything is due Sunday at midnight. So just kind of prep, and that's in a week. That's a full week from now. So don't worry, it's not this week. We have another week together. I don't want to confuse anybody. We still have session 15 and 16 to go through. All right, with that underway, let's talk about proportion as a design principle. Let's zoom in. Let's go through the text first, and then we'll look at those rad examples. All right, we know about size and scale already, but proportion refers to the size relationship between different elements. It's talked about a little bit differently. It's like, I want to say it's like the sophisticated way to talk about sizing of elements, of design elements when they're used. It's also the proportion, which I'll get to, is also when you resize something, it needs to be done in proportion. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But it's about consistency in size relationship that it talks about. You know, the very first and probably easiest example I can come up with is when we talk about it. Let me move this hand, get a little more space up there. Like, there's a box. There's a box. There's a box. There's 3 boxes. They're all the same size. They're all the same scale. They're all the same proportion. You know, I'm not being super mathematical on it. That is it. But then when you work with scale and proportion and you start to change some things, in one, it changes interest. This, whoa, is this. Or we start to look at, maybe if we looked at this, it's like, oh, this box is bigger, this is small, and then this is medium, but it gives you a different way to look at things. We're starting to change proportion, trying to change what is where and how it is. And we'll get more into that. But the other one, let me just double check that when it comes up in here. I don't want to double talk. I'll do it. Okay, it comes up later, aspect ratio, kind of. So that is what we're talking about. We talk about size and proportion. Like, maybe you could change the proportion of that. It's like, what do you mean? Well, the proportion means change how it compares to other things within the design. It's not always just make it bigger. It's just like, how is it looking with other things next to it? The golden ratio is a mathematical ratio. I don't know if it's often used in design. It's used in design sometimes. It becomes a natural idea, and it is based off of nature, and it's based off of, like, a lot of it, like flowers and trees and all this kind of stuff. Like, if you look at grouping of flower petals, it's always like with this golden ratio form, or how trees grow, where it's like it grows up and then it does a 1 and a 1, and then if this grows and then this has a 1 and a 1, and then this goes and it has a 1 and a 1, like, and as it branches, they each get smaller, and it like kind of just becomes the golden ratio in itself. And we kind of understand that as it comes from nature. Flowers, the way that flowers grow from the inside out. Looking at the sunflower is a good example of that. And then for us, we can proportion things. And if we do, and I have an example on the side, if we take a rectangle and we circle it in, it's like the amount of space used by each portion. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and they get smaller, is like you kind of loop that circle in. You could probably get smaller and smaller, but that's like the golden ratio starts with like that swirl, and you cut it off at each intersection, and it creates a different section. It's kind of cool. It'll make more sense when I get to it, but it is a proportional aspect. Hierarchy of scale. again, this is, how many times is this guy going to talk about this, eh? Scale and hierarchy. We need people to read stuff at certain times. We want them to see certain items at certain times. So we proportionately change the size of things. 3 boxes in a box. It's all the same, right? It's all the same to me. Doesn't make any difference. Okay. I'm just going to read it all. But then if we do that, and then we do this, and then we do this, then the hierarchy of scale is like, this is visually most important. This is secondary. Here, I can make it like 2 lines thick. And then this is fine. So it scales down, but we know like this is most important in proportion with everything else. And that's what we're looking at. So we've gone over this. It's like a lot of this is like, you know, the hammer on your head, like it's hierarchy. You want people to read certain things at certain times. Yeah, but it's very important. I think we're used to coming in, and I've read in some of your writings, I know this because I've read it from your students, is like, yeah, I'm used to like when you're in high school and you're just like making those PowerPoint presentations and everything is just thrown on the page and it's like, fill the page with everything. Like, no, we stopped doing that. We stopped filling the pages with everything. We're starting to think about like, this is important. This is less important. This is the least important. It's just a natural fact because people, you're taught this. Like, this is why you go to school for graphic design and why not everybody can do it. Like, there's a certain point of like people my age, let's say old people like me, if you were to have them do something in graphic design without knowing about scale, hierarchy, or proportion, would still be making, everything's the same. They don't understand like, oh, wait, so this should be bigger because they don't learn it. That's what you're in school for. That's what I'm teaching you. That's why we're hammering it over your head. Right away, after like 8 weeks in a class with me, you're going to be designing better flyers than somebody who's just, 20, 30 years older than you because they didn't learn some simple tricks using design elements and principles. Visual weight is going to go almost the same, though visual weight can be done differently. Visual weight is different than just stating like something is like big, like, oh, it's the biggest thing and it holds the most visual weight. Well, no, but what if you did things with color differences and color changes? Like you could, if you reverse something out and like, black background, and then like you had like a lot of stuff in really, really like dark gray, it's like black on black. And then you just put like a little dot of white. Visually, that dot of white would stand out more. Let's see if I can do something like that. Like say my information is here. So like it's there, but what stands out most in the composition is this small dot because it is white and it's standing out. Its visual weight is bigger just because of the contrast. I'm using that contrast, which is something different from earlier before. To help that change. But we may want that. We may want that like really like cool, like black, dark gray on black. And then we just want to pop, like just that little pop, and it's tiny, but it seems amazing because of just the visual weight of something small can take over. Aspect ratio. This we need to know for when you're designing. So aspect ratio is this. I have a box and it has a certain length and a certain height, or certain height and a certain width and height. Now you can change that, but you need to change it when we design. It's not always a 2-for-1 setup. So what I created for you for your poster is a 2x3 setup. It is easily divisible 2x3. So 24 by 36, divide that by 2 is 12 by 18. And you can scale that down to 2x3 inches. But when we scale something, we used to have a special tool to use. But when we scale something, we need to, and then you can see my line, do it in proportion. And so when that aspect ratio must stay the same. Oh, wrong button. So when we hold shift, see, the computer is keeping that aspect ratio absolutely the same. Doesn't matter if it's big or small. Oops. That aspect ratio was the same. So this, if I just do copy paste, and I grab it from the corner, and hold down shift, and I do, oh, I gotta get that on scroll. Huh. And I do another copy paste. I grab this, not shift. All right. All three of these are different sizes, right? Different size, different size, different size. They're all the exact same aspect ratio. Exactly the same. They have just reduced in size. But mathematically, they are exactly the same in proportion and in aspect ratio. So that's the cool part. So you need to know that when you like, oh, we need a banner and a flyer and this and that. And you're like, oh yeah, I'll use the same template for everything. Oh, it does not move over. Like the postcard may be 4x6 and the flyer may be 8.5 by 11. Those don't relate in aspect. So they're going to be different sizes. You're going to lose a little height on one, and then your design doesn't just directly fit in. So that's an important thing to know when you're working on multiple projects like that. Now let's do the undo, because I can't get to those squares. All right, spatial relationship. You know, it's where do things sit next to each other? Spacing, alignment, do we want them centered? You know, like how does that work? That affects the way we see this as well for proportion. You can either emphasize proportion or de-emphasize proportion. I guess like a quick one with that would be, oh, I'm still on my foreboding color. So if I went like, I kind of want to like, and then there's this little guy peeking in from the back. It's supposed to look like it's behind it. Or if I did this and then do one up, it does change the feel of it. It's like it's supposed to be almost the same size, but you know, like this one is close and behind, this one is far. And all I did, I moved it. I moved it that much to get a change in that the proportion changes, the sense of the proportion changes. This one seems smaller, it's relatively the same size, but just because I moved it out. So you can change the way people view that as well. Oh, cropping and framing. This is a fun one. You know, you read about framing in the book. This is where like you can make things seem enormous simply by cropping them out. You know, like, I don't know why I thought of this. You draw an eyeball, right? Beep, 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 beep. Or then if I were to frame that eyeball out, it kind of will make it seem even closer. Oh man, I wanted it black in the middle. You know, if you knew that was an eye and I like zoomed in, it's like one of those, like it's staring at you. I hope you get the idea. I'm not going to go spend too much time, but you know, zoomed in on the eye, or is it, you know, you see the whole eye, or you see, you know, just the pupil and you're like, oh, okay, that's creepy. Like that seems like really zoomed in. Well, it's not. I just change the way you saw it by framing it. It's the same size eyeball. And then finally, this last one, which is really cool, and this is like becoming the hot new item around, is architectural proportion. And it's not just, I'm not talking about like columns and doors necessarily. Is we're starting to design into buildings, starting to, we are in more public spaces like MATC. If you've ever been down here and you walk some of the hallways, they're doing stuff like you get off the elevator on the floors, and in front of the elevator are 6 foot tall numbers. So you know when you get off the floor, what floor you're on. We have giant murals and giant like graphics on the walls. And it's helping you with that space. The spaces seem more lived in. They're more informative. And it seems weird. Like if you were telling somebody like, I'm going to put a 6 foot number outside of every door in the elevator, they might be like, you're crazy. But when you see when it's done, it's like, oh, how helpful is that? How great is that? It's like crazy proportion. Like why aren't we doing bigger signage for people? Like we have these tiny signs everywhere that people have to walk up and squint. I want to be able to see from down the hall where I'm going, not once I get up to it. You know, so that's like some of the cool new stuff that's happening with graphic design and architecture with proportion. Let's check out our samples here. Well, right away, huge garage sale. Do we need to say much more than that? You know, like really, you know, it's fun, it's big. The secondary one is garage sale, not multifamily. So isn't that like, and then we have these dark, you know, these dark arrows pointing in, one pointing down, one pointing up, and it's keeping us in the center. And then huge is huge, garage sale second, even though multifamily is in there. It's all in proportion to different proportion on how you should read it to each other on there. It's a cool little piece. I love it, you know. And then, you know, of course, a graphic designer was part of this family. Not the average person wasn't doing that. Oh, I love it. All right. I like this one too. This is fun. Like, people are all the same size, right? People are all the same size. She looks like a giant, but she's not. We understand this idea that we're next to her. We're zoomed in with her, and the fight, like the fight is happening behind her. And I love that they use like the cropping space of her arms and stuff. You know, like here's the scene, and then here's like there's like two more a scene. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 scenes all separated by proportion because we have her, and within her is one scene. Then we have these, which are kind of medium far back. Then we have these two guys fighting, which frames out the furthest back scene. All done with different proportions to show us, you know, kind of what's happening and to keep us moving around. Like, oh, this is happening, that's happening, that's happening, this is happening. And it's just a very cool design. Like to think about, they took every area they could and like really made these different fun setups. Here's that golden ratio I was talking about. And this is done on a little like phone app that you can see. This is a golden ratio swirl. It's like a nautilus shell. A nautilus shell is the exact. Nature did it in the nautilus shell. I don't know why it took me that long to figure that out. I usually know that, say it sooner. But like the biggest portion is the biggest swoop till it intersects. Then we have this another sweeping intersect, which is the order portion. Then we have another sweeping intersect, which is the play and share. And then another one, which is the save. So what I was talking about earlier is those intersections are all like when that swirl hits an edge is where you break it. And then so like here to here, that becomes the square, here to here, here to here. Have I ever done this? No. Absolutely not. I have never like gone and made like, I need the golden ratio swirl. If you look online and look up people and look up like analyzing graphic design logos, you'll see people go nuts placing in aspect ratios on like logos. You see like the Apple logo, people like, in every part of the Apple logo is an exact proportion. And you're just like, really? All right. You're really getting into it. Like sometimes the graphic designers, like, I just did it because it's cool. And sometimes there are graphic designers who sat there and did it. It's usually the post analysis of a graphic design piece that comes where they start doing this kind of stuff, where this is the perfect golden ratio. Was it like armchair football or something like that, when you watch sports and after the fact you start to criticize it, but you're not really part of it, and then like you can say all that cool stuff afterwards? Armchair graphic designers. This is a cool one in the idea of like, it just like, it's for, I can't remember what it's for, but the idea, like, they're just making you jealous and they really don't need to add much. Like, I think it's maybe for regular project. Personal female. You know, it's like this guy's project, but it's like all this is small. Well, this is that like reverse too. Like the biggest thing, you just sit here and stare at this. But then when you go over here, because it's such a stark difference, pure white to a pretty dark, heavy photo, even though it's like summertime and this beautiful mountain getaway. God, I want to live there. That's so great. But, you know, it's pretty dark. And then over here, like all the type, pretty much the same size. And how do we change the type? Visual proportion, bold. Not navigation, very light, regular, light, regular. You know what I mean? And so it's not like they didn't change the size. They just, this is maybe a different font, but it is, for all intents and purposes, this is just bold. So it visually changes the proportion. We didn't physically change the proportion. And then this one. This one's a really weird one in that it's like there is some sort of like, and I'll let's say the reverse proportion into it, in this idea of like, if you were to cut it here and you see these people standing in front of the mountains, you know, backdrop great, and it's kind of walking through this smoke and fire, it's all right, right? It's pretty cool. But then we do this thing where at the bottom it changes the scale. And I always just see like, is this a city? Are those cars moving in the city? Like this part of the bottom proportion like just doesn't seem right. And it's crazy. Let's see if I can just block it out a bit. You know what I mean? Like if I just give you this part of that lower part, that seems like this vast expanse. But it's not really a vast expanse, is it? It's the floor they're sitting on that leads to like what seems like a vast expanse, but it seems average size. Like those are just some hills that you can see the trees. So that's kind of I put that one in there because it's such a weirdo one when it comes to that, like proportions, changes and savings. So cool. Any questions on proportion? All right. Let's do, that can close. Don't save. We'll come to that in a minute. All right. Your research, what are we on to? Illustrator, back to Illustrator. Just popping back and forth. You know what to do. Easy peasy. Book cover, movie poster, and album cover that show proportion. What you think is proportion. Awesome. You've been doing it. You know what to do. The proportion project. Now, what we want to do here is what I term reverse proportion. My first thing to always like kind of talk about is is, so this is it. You only have to do 3. 1, 2, 3. Work words pink. Your artwork here. Do a reverse proportion. And the one I always kind of start with because I think it's pretty easy. And then there's like a ton of things to do. Here it is. Is jumbo shrimp. Did you ever hear that? You know what oxymorons is? It's like a reversal. 2 words that don't work well together, but they mean something. So when you buy it, shrimp sometimes means small. And then if it's a jumbo shrimp, how can it be jumbo and shrimpy at the same time? So like that's like a reverse proportion. Or you can do it in the sense of like, how do I fool people? And this is the proverbial like eyeball, but is it a sun? And then the highlight is like a moon. You know what I mean? Like, and so you're like looking in the eyeball, but wait, is it space or is it an eyeball? What is it? It's blowing my mind. But it's like reverse proportion. Or how do we know? Like this one is, we don't know how big this tree is compared to this house. Or another way to do it is, I mean, I can draw on this. There's my box. And I could do that same thing, but like if I have like a little flower, oh, that's too small. What am I doing? And then it depends on like where I put it. But if I kind of like do here, oh, I think it'd have to be lower. And then then you have the house. Like the house is normal size. It's just the flower looks like it's huge, but it's not. It's just the way the proportions work with each other, that if that was shot and I took a picture of a flower with a house in the background, does it look like the house is a miniature house close to a flower? Like, how does that work? And so play around and do some goofy experimentation about reverse proportion. Reverse what we think would be normal and reverse it. Be a little creative. Have some fun with that. Any questions on the reverse proportion compositions? All right, it should be pretty standardized. It should be fun. I think it's a fun one. Now, finally, last but not least, computer rough draft. All right, so you're working on your poster. You've done some thumbnails. I've got ideas. You rock out the thumbnails, and then you go to the next stage. You take your favorite thumbnails, and you're like, let me look at these closer. And I'm really, like, I want to make sure that this goes here and this goes here, and I think this is exactly the theme I want. It's a little bit more in depth. All right. So then we are going to then work into the computer. So I have my layout that we did from a couple weeks back, right? This is my layout. It has my name in it. Remember doing that? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, and I can just call it, I'm going to call it rough. And I'm going to take my rough sketch and I'm going to place it in here. The reason is it's going to be far easier for you to design. I am not kidding you. It does make it. I do this to this day. even in the roughest of rough forms, if I spend the time to do a sketch, drawing, or something, and it's approved and it's time for me to move on, I will work on that on top of it because it's got some, I don't know, je ne sais quoi. It's got like something that made it work. And if you don't do it like pretty much exactly, it won't work out as well. So what do I mean like by that? I'm going to open up this, and I already screenshot. So I've got this. Now, I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out. If I go in and I just start to like place things, I'm going to get them off. They're not going to be as perfect. So I want to place them in. And as you can see, some things had to change. But for the most part, I'm going to take my rough. I'm going to go File, Place. Go to my screenshots. Got this, Place. And just place it in. And you're just going to go. And I'm going to hold down Shift. And now you can see I'm a little bit off on my proportion, which is okay. But I can just maybe get it centered and be like, okay, this is a good start. I have my image in there. And now look how like it took like 1 second to do that. And now everything's here. I don't have to think about anything but the design now and placing things in. Now, this person ignored the margin, which we need to make sure we put in the margins. Like nothing important goes beyond that margin. That's our like safety area, that no text, no faces, nothing important, dates, numbers goes beyond that margin line. But here I can just start, okay, I got my, my images, I got my images, playing guitar, stage, singer, boom, put them in, place them in there. And then we can start moving it around. So when in the end, I took this from the student's work. That's why I'm not actually placing this, and here they have it. It's placed in, their proportions are off. It's done at a different time before this, before they're using this background. But you can see pretty much logo, rock hand, summary, guy playing, they move the guy playing guitar, or was that singer on stage playing guitar. They moved some things, we talked, and then we made improvements because I think we talked that this could be an image for them. But basically, it's all there. But it's easier if you have this base template to go off of and just be like, all right, let me just place it where I had it originally instead of like thinking about it. It takes that process out, and it makes life way easier. So I highly, highly suggest that you take your rough and then you just place things on top of that rough to get started. And then you can turn off that rough and then move them around as needed. Like then when you're done, you turn that off and you start to be like, okay, now I'm going to put in my color background. Now I'm going to put in all that and start to, block it out. So, and that's how you go about this process. So it should be a fairly quick process. You have all the images, you have all your text, you have your logos, you have everything you need. And then you have a drawing that shows you where you want to put everything. So now put it in the computer. And then we'll refine it next week. And then you'll have a final. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Cool. Well, if you do have questions, comments, concerns, anything along the way, please reach out to me. I'm always around. I'm always here to help you to help. If you have run into problems using any of the programs or setting stuff up, just let me know. I think that's it. That's just off the list. And then just do the reading. Let's double check. Yeah, there we are. Cool. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, if I don't talk to you on the discussion boards later today or tomorrow, I will see you Thursday with our pattern presentation. All right, take care. Have a good one. I'm really excited to see these poster roughs. All right, take care. Bye-bye.